Hey guys, today we're going to be learning and working on how to use oil pastels. You probably used oil pastels before, but we're going to learn new ways to use them and more interesting ways to use them. Each person in here is going to receive one of these. Everybody in each class will share one, so you will be using one that somebody else in another class would be using. So these are going to be shared because I don't have enough to go around to everybody. However, if everybody's doing their job to take care of your oil pastels, we'll be in good shape. Let me show you what this looks like. Just slides out. Notice how nice, pretty, and clean all that is. We want to keep it as clean and as nice and as neat as we possibly can, just so that we're being respectful of the materials and so that everybody has a fair share to the same materials that you do. So you're going to want to put those over to the side. You're also going to receive this sheet of paper right here that says Oil Pastel Techniques. You'll notice it has a split in the middle, a line that goes through the middle there. We will actually be cutting this in half and pasting it into your sketchbook so that you will be able to keep it for the duration of this project, and you'll be able to have it as reference for later on. So without further ado, let's go on and get into it. Now, blending two colors. Blending two colors. What you're going to do is you're going to take two colors that you like, okay? Probably colors that would blend into each other, maybe that are right next to each other on the color wheel, maybe like a red and an orange, or a blue and maybe a green. I'm going to do a light blue and a kind of a light green. Now notice that these have a little bit of residue on the tips of them. I always keep a paper towel beside me because it helps me wipe things off so that I can have a clean surface on the oil pastel. How do we do this? Well, it's pretty simple. Go in here to one side of your block where it says blending two colors. Stay inside your lines because we are old enough to know how to stay inside the lines. You're not going to press down super hard. I'm not giving it all my weight here, and I'm going to come in just a little more than halfway with this green. Just a little more than halfway. Okay? And then I'm going to leave it. And then what I can do is take my blue that I want to blend into that green, and I can start in on this side. Again, stay inside the lines. We have enough control to do that. And you need to show me that control because this is going to be graded based on quality and not completion. Alright, and as you get close, you'll just start to kind of go in you see I'm going in a circular motion and working into the other color. And you can kind of come back and forth until they feel like they are totally blending. Don't drag it all the way to the complete other side because you want it to be fully that green color, and don't drag the green all the way over into the blue. You want it to kind of stop so that you have your full blue, full green, and then the blend of the two. So there's what that looks like. I do want to kind of tidy up my green, and so I'm going to go back in there and just clean that up a little bit. Okay, and so now I have a nice smooth transition of blue to green. Now down here it says types of strokes. So we want to look at what types of strokes there is. Well, this one here says tip. So when we're talking about the tip, we're talking about working directly on the surface with the tip of the oil pastel. So I'm working directly with the tip. And you can fill that in. And what you're going to notice is that this gives a much probably smoother look. And the other thing we can do is turn it on its side. That's going to require you to peel back a little bit of your paper, that's okay. Just don't peel back a whole bunch. Okay, so we have that right there. I'm going to clean it off a little bit, and I'm just turning it on its side so it's flat on its side. And it gives us just a little bit more of a rough texture, and that's okay. That's good stuff. All right, next thing we're going to talk about is mixing two colors. So you'll see here it says primary, primary, and secondary. We know that our primaries are red, yellow, and blue. So we would take two of our primaries to mix a secondary, what comes in the middle of one of those primary colors. In my case, I'm going to do red and, let's do red and yellow. Okay, so I've got red and yellow. I'm going to start over here with red as one of my primaries. I'll fill that in nice and smooth. Okay, now I'm going to come over here with my yellow. Got a little bit of residue on there, so I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to fill up this other primary box with my primary color yellow. Now we know mixing the primary colors red and yellow, we get orange. I do not want you to go over here and pick an orange. I want you to blend the orange on your own. I want you to make it by yourself. Okay? We are capable of doing that, and it makes a richer, pure tone than if you were to just go grab the orange right out of the box. So I'm going to lay down a base red. Now notice this. I am not pressing in as hard as I was to fill in the primary spot, because when we're blending on top of one another, if you've got such a heavy base, it's just going to lift up when you try to put on your next color. So I don't have a heavy base. Now I can go in here and press in a little bit more with my yellow. And you'll see that start to blend into an orange. And there we go. Do not overwork it, okay? Once it's done, it's done. If you are pressing in and pressing in and pressing in, you're going to end up lifting out value and lifting out color, and it's not going to be successful. You don't want that. I don't want that. So just be cautious, okay? Be cautious. Okay. Now, we've got different techniques which we talked about in your PowerPoint and should be posted out in Google Classroom. You've got feathering, scumbling and glazing, hatching and cross-hatching, and stippling. Remember, feathering is when, and I'll go on and use this red and yellow. Feathering is when you are layering on top of one another in kind of a loose pattern. So, see how I'm just coming in here and I'm not blending, I'm not smoothing. I'm just kind of coming in here kind of in a circular motion. And then I'm going to come in here maybe with my red on top. And you're allowing that yellow to be seen underneath the red. And then our eye does the blending, and you see now that that appears orange even though we didn't blend it all the way. I can come back on top with some white. That's feathering. That's when it's loose. Okay? Scumbling is a little bit different. Scumbling is just a little bit different here. When we are scumbling, we are we're laying down a tone and then working back on top using the side stroke. okay, that side stroke. So let me come in here with some of this green, okay. And I've got this kind of tilted on its side. I'm going to do a base green all the way across. Okay, so it's transparent. I can see through it. I can see some of the white. Now, maybe I want to come back and darken that value with a darker green. That's okay. I'm going to peel back some of that. I'm going to turn it on its side. And then I'm going to work right on top the same way I was. And that's scumbling, okay? Working on top of existing colors. You can come back on top of that with a white if you wanted. But the goal here is not to press in and be blending so much, okay? Glazing is more lightening those values. And so I'm coming back on top with that white and glazing the surface. And you can alternate back and forth as much as you want to do and achieve, okay? Hatching and cross hatching. Hatching is one angular stroke, okay? So, one angular stroke going across. And then working into that with other colors. So maybe I want some green in here. Well, now I'm hatching with that green. And maybe I want just a little bit of a darker orange in there. I can do that as well. Okay. Cross hatching, since I already have this orange, I'll come in here with some cross hatching. So we're coming in with our hatches. Hit it with some of that green. And then you're doing the same thing going the opposite direction. And that's hatching and cross hatching. Okay? And stippling, which happens to be one of my very, very favorites. I'm going to do this blue and green that we did up here. I'm going to replicate that down there. So, if you'll notice here, feathering, hatching, and cross-hatching all deal with visual blending rather than a solid blending. Here we've blended two tones and connected them, and they are a smooth transition. These make your eye blend the color for you. You're letting your eye do the work rather than the media. So, I can come in here and start stippling in. Now I'm doing very small taps. Okay, the wrong way to do this would be like that. Okay, marks should be seen and not heard. Marks should be seen and not heard. So you're going to come in here. It's okay to get a little bit of a tick, but you just don't want it bothering the whole class. This is kind of like stippling that you did when you were doing pen and ink, except this goes a lot faster. Okay, now I can come in here with some of this blue. I'm going to work some of this blue up into that green. And then some of this green down into that blue. And that visually blends on its own, okay? So we see a blending of the two colors, except that it's not done by blending them together. It's just done by putting one color on top of the other. Pretty easy. Okay, now Next thing, a tint of a color. We know that a tint of a color means that you're adding white. So I'm going to come in here and start with this blue. And remember, I said when you are layering something over the top, if you're laying a color over the top of another color, you want that base layer to not be very thick. You want it to be a light coat. So you see there, it's transparent, you can see some through it. Now I'm going to be able to take my white at this point and then do my heavy blending. Again, I'm not pressing so hard that this thing is feeling like it's about to go through the paper. I'm just lightly pressing in. Not a bad idea to go the opposite direction, just to solidify it. Okay, so that's a tint of a color. Tint is adding white to an existing color. Alright, shade of a color, that's when we're adding black. This requires just a little bit more layering than when we did the white, and I'll show you that right now. Okay, so now I'm going to take some black and come over the top of this. I have to hit this very light with black. I'm going to turn it on its side so that it's not so heavy and just run that black down through there. Okay, then I'm going to come back with my blue and then press in. Okay, so you have a tint and a shade. Shade adding black, tint adding white. Alright, value scale. It says value scale, you only use your finger to blend. So sometimes we can use our finger to blend out some value. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go in here, pop in a little bit of value, pop in a little bit of color, but don't go all the way down. Pull it in to about a quarter of the way. Then take your finger, yes it's messy, and drag that value. And it blends, dark to light. Okay. Another thing I wanted to show you is intensity scale. Remember we talked about in the slideshow that two complements make a neutral. So if you blend anything that's directly across from each other on the color wheel, it makes a neutral tone, maybe like a muted or a brown tone. So right here, I've got them listed for you. I've got red and green, which would go here, blue and orange right here, and violet and yellow right here, which are all your complementary pairs on the color wheel. I'm going to start by showing you red and green. I've got some green here, and I've got red here. All right, it's very much similar to blending this up here, except the middle tone is going to end up more neutral. So I'm going to start over here where it says red, and I'm going to add in my red. And again, I'm going to go just a little bit more than halfway. Just a little bit more. And then I'll come over here with my green. Start popping that in. And then it's going to hit that red. And it's going to start to neutralize. It's going to create a dark tone. And if you need to take some more red and blend in, you can. Alright, so You're going to look at this and think this is really gross. Well, it's not supposed to be pretty all the time. This right here, what happens is what I want you to see is by blending these two, you get a darker value. So rather than using black to darken everything, a complement of the color that you're using can darken it just as well and make it just as strong. And guys, you get the gist of that, so I'm going to have you repeat that with blue and orange and violet and yellow. You'll find that some of these are a little bit more brown and some of them end up a little bit more dark like a black color. Now, last thing, this is a long value scale and it's that way for a reason. So let's read. Value scale, using black and white to make a color transition smoothly from light to dark. So we're going to get one color down here and then we're going to put white in there to make it light on one side and black to make it darker on the other. So I'm going to use my blue, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to work in on this whole thing with one light value. I'm not pressing in really hard. You don't need to. Just press in lightly and fill it up quickly. Now, in the center is where your pure color is going to go. So I am going to go to the very center and press in and pull a little bit. Now at this point you're ready for your white. So I'm going to come in here and add white to really lighten up that one side. And then we're going to drag that all the way into our pure tone right in the middle. And then I want you to stop. And then on the other side of that, we're going to add black. And remember, it's no different than adding a shade, so I'll have to come back over the top of that with my blue. And I'm going to stop when I hit my pure tone. And then I'm going to come over the top of this with my blue. And now this is where the smooth blending begins. So I'm cleaning this off so that I don't have any white or any black on it. And at this point, I'm going to work into my white a little bit more. I'm not pressing hard because I'll take up some value, and I don't want to take anything off the paper. I want it to stay there. And I'm just blending ever so slightly into my white. And I'm taking my finger and doing a little bit of smoothing, okay, but not a lot. Then I can take and clean that off and work my blue into my black. And I can already tell you I'm going to need more black. I'm going to need to blend that a little bit more. Okay. So now you have a smooth transition. Light to your pure tone into your dark. Okay? So you have a light to dark transition. That's basically it, guys. This is not rocket science. It's not super hard, but it does take you having some patience. What I did in 20 minutes could take you more like a full class time to finish. So I want you to take your time. I want you to pace yourself, and I want you to produce something that's going to be nice and neat and clean. So in my sketchbook here, I've got it open to a clean page. Take this guy, cut it directly in half. You can do this with scissors or at the cutting board, your choice. Notice I cut these so that they would fit nice and perfect in there. And then take it, glue the back of it, and stick it in your sketchbook. Boom. And you can do the same thing on the opposite side with the other side. And that will go right behind where your notes and everything are. So, this gives you a start and a base on how to work with oil pastel. I hope it helps.